Well, let's go ahead. It's noon, so let's go ahead and get started. And we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, nation under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
And we'll go ahead with our pledge. Kiwanis
is a global
organization voluntary
dedicated to bringing the world one child at a
and one community at a time
to others. Okay, and John, I think you've got our invocation today.
Let us pray. Almighty and most merciful God, we remember before you all poor and neglected persons whom it would be easy for us to forget. The homeless and the destitute, the old and the sick, the young and the troubled, and all who have none to care for them. Help us to heal those who are broken in body or spirit, and to turn their sorrow into joy. Look with pity, O Heavenly Father, upon the people who live with injustice, terror, disease, and death as their constant companions. Help us to eliminate cruelty to these our neighbors. In thy name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, John. Guests, we do have a couple of guests today. Christy Demaray. Christy, I met her at the vaccine center. We were both volunteering here the other day or a week or two ago, and Christy was asking questions about Kiwanis, so I invited her to attend today and visit with us, and hopefully we can get get Christy to join the club, and her husband. They also want to know how they can volunteer to help. So we've got a lot of ideas, Christy. So Christy, do you want to say something? You're on mute.
Yeah, I'm in the process of watering these pepper plants now, but I'm trying to do this one-handed. Hey, I'm happy to join, and I'm excited to see what all we can do, and I'm hoping that we can be there tomorrow for the emptying the truck. Let's see. So
great.
Yeah, we'll do what we can.
Thank you, Christy. I appreciate it so much. And Andrew, our Lieutenant Governor, is here visiting. So Andrew, do you want to say something? Or?
I'll just reiterate to those that weren't on maybe when I was talking to you or a few minutes ago, just really proud of what the Crawfordsville Club is accomplishing, especially during trying times. So really keep up the good work. Great leadership from all of you. I know you have a lot of great leaders that are already in the club, and then Gary, you're doing a fantastic job. Appreciate everyone's support, and look forward to hearing soon about all the new exciting things you're trying. So thank you. And Christy, thanks for joining us today. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Andrew. Announcements, volunteer opportunities. We do have, like we said, tomorrow we're unloading the Food Finders truck at the Youth Service Bureau, 9 a.m. for Nourish. We need some help. I think we had 3 or 4 people sign up. We have a couple of Christy and her husband may be able to come, and so if you can help, we need you. Don, I see you here. You've helped with that before. If you're interested, we would appreciate it. Monday, April 19th, we're packing backpacks for Nourish, and that's at 4 p.m. We're going to try to see, get our speed up a little bit. We've been doing really, really good. I think we're doing we're to 135 to 140 an hour. So we want to keep that up and see what we can do. We're having fun with it, and we do enjoy that. Jerry, you need any other speaker coordinators?
I'm still looking for the 5 dates in July. A couple of you have sent ideas to me, and I'm trying to get in contact with those people. But since it appears that we're going to continue to be meeting virtually, even through that time frame, your speaker candidate could be from anywhere in the world. And so if you have any ideas, why please reach out and let me know, or contact the person yourself. And if you can get something set up, then let me know and I'll plug it into the schedule. Thanks for your help in advance.
Great, thanks. And it might be interesting, Christy, if you'd like to speak and tell us about your farms and what you're doing out there in July. So you can talk to maybe Jerry can get in touch with you and set you up as a speaker, because I think looking at your farm site and everything, it was quite interesting.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I don't know what all I would talk about. I don't know if I could spend that much time, but I'm certainly try.
Well, that would be good. So Jerry, there's another one that
Okay,
we could look at for July. So I think
Jerry, send me her contact info after the meeting, if you would.
I will do so. I will do so. Member updates. I didn't talk to anybody this week. So any updates from anybody? Okay. Okay. Community involvement meetings. Tell somebody else about the meetings. Let's get some other people involved to come to our meetings and attend and see what's all about, see what Kiwanis is all about. Let's bring someone else in and see what we do for kids in our community. So if you can, try to invite someone else to the meeting. If you just forward them the email I send out and tell them a little bit about it, they can get on real easy. So it'd be great to have more people involved. Pancake Week. Caleb, you're here. Any updates?
Biggest one we've had in a while. So thanks everybody for your help. Thanks for sending the pancake money in that you have. If you haven't, make sure you do. Make sure you call your best friends in the club and make sure they did as well. I think we're a little over halfway there with everybody putting in. So if we can get everybody to do it, we'll be over 10,000 probably, even after costs. I haven't talked to, still haven't gotten a hold of Paul yet. I think he's probably taking a rest like we are. So we'll do a debrief meeting. If you want to be involved in that, send me an email. Otherwise, a few of us that were kind of working on things, we're going to see what worked, what didn't, and see what we can do next year. So
good. I think, like I said, I think it was a great pancake week. We did, for those of you that I didn't send the message to, we attended Andrew's division meeting the other day, and quite interesting with Lafayette. They're doing a pancake morning in conjunction with one of the it's the Joe Tiller golf outing, and they hooked up to that to do the morning, because most golf outings they have something later in the day, after the outing. So they've hooked up to do pancakes and everything that morning. So that could be very, very lucrative for the club, and be able to work some of that stuff out. So I was excited to hear about that. One of the other clubs is still Thorntown is still doing. Is it Thorntown that's doing the fishing derby, or which one?
That was Lebanon.
Yep. The fishing derby for the kids. So there's a lot of other things going on with other clubs. Most clubs or some of the clubs are meeting in person and virtually. So they're doing both. So, it might be something once we get back together, telemarketer again. Once we get back together, we can make sure we can do that. Jerry has volunteered to film these or get them on Zoom, so we can do that. So it'd be great to have that available to us all. Let's see, somebody else here. Let's see, birthdays. We know John celebrated a birthday yesterday. Happy birthday again. And hope all went well and you had a lot of cake and ice cream and you blew out all the candles. Birthdays in history. Quite interesting. Leonardo da Vinci was born in 1452 on this day. And Nikita Khrushchev was born in 1894 on this day. 1933, Elizabeth Montgomery was born. Anybody remember who she was?
Witched.
Which,
Yeah, Bewitched. She was Samantha on Bewitched, right? And same year, 1933, Roy Clark, country singer and a guy on Hee Haw, I think he's most famous for, was born. And then I found this very, very interesting. 1951, Jerry, these are all for you. John L. Phillips, a NASA astronaut, was born. 1951, the same year, same day, Marcia Ivins, an American astronaut, was born. 1956, Gregory Harbaugh, American astronaut, was born. And in 1962, a gentleman by the name of Tom Kane was born. And I want you to listen to Tom Kane and you can tell me who he is. Let's see. Not getting the sound out of it now.
Brave you must be. A great challenge have you. 6 missions there are. The victory races of Naboo. Your skill they will test. Deadly.
So you know who he is?
It's the voice of Yoda.
that was Yoda.
Yeah, the voice of Yoda. So I
I
figured,
always thought that was Frank Oz.
well, it was originally was
In the
Frank,
movie, maybe.
and then Tom Kane took over after him. And matter of fact, after Tom Kane started, Frank Oz did do 2 more films. But Tom Kane's the one that does Yoda in all of the games, the video games, and all of that stuff. So
Okay.
it's interesting learning about him. What's a shame, let's see, in December 2020, just a few months ago, he suffered a stroke. And so they're thinking that he may not be able to do that anymore. But interesting to learn about Tom Kane. And other birthdays, Sunday, April 18th. Let's see, who is that? Oh, Larry Saylor's birthday, Sunday, April 18th. Happy birthday, Larry.
Thank you. Another milestone.
There you go. Good.
Just another day, not a year.
They're all other days, right?
Right.
Happy bucks. We're collecting this quarter for Mountie Mission. And I've got $5 I'll throw in there because I am happy because the yard does look good and we got that done before any of the rain hits on the weekend. So who else is
I've
happy?
got $5 since that great grandbaby's coming today.
Okay, we don't have an announcement yet?
Not yet. I keep checking my phone.
Okay. Any minute, Sharon's gonna become a great grandma. So we're waiting. Who else?
I'll throw in 5. I'm going to plant my tomatoes before the weekend, or my potatoes, not my tomatoes, my potatoes, and my yard looks good too.
Good.
Yeah, I'll put 5 in.
Thanks, Jerry. Jim. Anybody else?
I'll put 5 in for helping Ladoga out.
There you go. Thanks, Morse. And it's amazing. Mountie Mission is not just Ladoga. For everything that she does there, it is fantastic. The work that they do, and it's all for the kids. When we went through there to see the amount of school supplies that they have ready for the end of the year or for the new school year, it is just amazing. The stuff that they have ready, and it's all put together so that when they go to fill these backpacks for the kids going back to school, it is fantastic. So we'll try to get some pictures, all that stuff, and help them out.
Hey, Gary, I'll throw in a 5 for when we for an IOU for when we have that.
Thank you, Andrew.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Okay, this day in history. Boy, I was going through this stuff last night too, or when putting this all together, but this is quite a bit. 1865, Abraham Lincoln died. That was 9 hours after being shot. He was actually shot on the 14th, but died on the 15th. And anybody know where you can actually see his deathbed? Chicago History Museum. Terry and I visited that one day and several years ago and saw that bed. And I don't know that Star or Karen could have laid on there without being diagonal, much less Lincoln. It was a very small bed, but they did. 1910, William Taft is the first president to throw out the first baseball at a baseball game. The Washington Senators versus the Philadelphia Athletics. So that was, that was the first president to throw it out. 1912. What happened in 1912? Anybody remember?
Titanic.
That's right. That's right. Anybody see that skit this week on Saturday Night Live? Let's see here. I'm going to try to share the screen. Titanic. So 1924, Rand McNally publishes its first road atlas. I guess it should have published a sea atlas earlier for the Titanic, right? 1947, Jackie Robinson becomes the first African-American to play in the U.S. Major League Baseball. 1952, and this is for Brad, Franklin National Bank issues the first true bank credit card. 1952. So that was before Brad was born. There was so much today. 1955, Ray Kroc opened up his first McDonald's fast food restaurant in Des Plaines, Illinois. Been through that place quite a few times. They've got to still have the original McDonald's with the arches and everything. 1962, the U.S. national debt hit $300 billion. Not much when you think today it's over 28 trillion. So 1991, Magic Johnson set an NBA record for career assists with 9,898. In 2013, anybody remember what that one was? Boston Marathon bombings, where 3 people were killed and 183 injured. And in 2019, Notre Dame Cathedral caught fire. So it's a pretty interesting day. There's a lot of history today. And speaking of history, national days, today's Get to Know Your Customer Day. All of you that have customers, get to know your customer better. Of course, it's Jackie Robinson Day, McDonald's Day. It's National Ask an Atheist Day. I don't know what you'd ask them, but it's Ask an Atheist Day. It's National Gripers Day. And as I told my wife, it's National Laundry Day. And then she smacked me. Yeah. And then, of course, Titanic Remembrance Day. And very appropriate that it's Take a Wild Guess Day on Tax Day. And that's also That Sucks Day. So all fits in with Tax Day, right? Okay, I'm going to mute everybody. And Karen and Brad, if you want to unmute, Karen, you can introduce Brad, and Brad, you can go ahead and then share your screen and everything. and we'll go ahead and get started. So I'll mute everybody, and Karen and Brad, you'll have to take yourselves off mute.
Hey, everybody. So today I've invited Brad Monts, who's the president and CEO of Hoosier Heartland State Bank. He's been at the bank for about 457 years. He is pretty much involved in every nonprofit in Montgomery County, as well as being on the school board for Southmont, and has a lovely wife, Karen, who's hilarious, and 2 grown kids, Taylor and Brooke. Does that about cover it, Brad?
That was pretty good. I like it. Thank you,
Thanks.
Karen. Well, thank you for allowing me to come and speak today. Karen asked, "Oh, would you like to speak?" And it's like, "Oh, what do I want to speak about?" So if you don't like it, it's Karen's fault because she didn't give me guidance. But one of the things we talk about a lot here at the bank is fraud. And Gary kind of talked about it earlier with the calls you get. And so I think that's one of the things that we kind of focus on quite a bit is the fraud. And so I kind of just thought I would kind of hit on some of the fraud that we see and are hearing about all the time. And so that's kind of what I wanted to focus on a little bit. And so feel free. I know Gary's got you muted, but if you want to chime in or ask questions anytime, feel free. I tried to create some polls, but then I realized I wasn't really the host, so I couldn't create a poll to ask some questions, but I will ask some questions throughout, and you can feel free to kind of put them in the chat, and I'll see if I can kind of keep up with what's going on. But I kind of found the definition of fraud, and really it's kind of just like those telemarketing calls that you get. I mean, they are trying to kind of deceive you, have trickery and stuff. And so it really is their goal is to profit from dishonesty. So I think that's just kind of a great definition of how to look. And so I've talked about this for many years is how many people, and you can kind of raise your hand or give a reaction, but how many people still write checks at like the grocery store or a local merchant? Anybody? So what I always tell everybody, you know, it's a lot of with debit cards and stuff, there's still a lot of use of checks and stuff, and it's changed a lot. But if everybody may know this, but I've always talked about, you're giving that person your bank routing number and your account number in items 1 and 2. I think I can kind of laser point. Yeah. So here's your account number on your check, and here's the bank routing number. So anytime that you write a check, you're actually giving that out. And so several years ago, I had a customer that actually wrote a check to like the 90-day prescriptions, mail-in prescriptions. Didn't think anything about it, but not too long after it, he had somebody basically had taken his routing and account number and created new checks. And so in this day and age, it doesn't take much to print a check. You could probably, anybody could print a check with your information on it and pass it. So, but one of the things that I always talk about is making sure that you're checking your account. And not just when you get your statement, because that's 30 days away from the last time you got your statement. So yes, there is all kinds of fraud out there, but this person that found this check, he actually found it the day it came into the bank, because he went online and he checks his account multiple times a day. So he instantly knew that, hey, I don't remember a check for that amount. And he was able to actually tell us, and we could send it back instantly. So just one of those things, I think that a lot of people talk about, oh, I don't like a debit card or I don't online banking because there's all kinds of fraud. Well, there is fraud, but there's fraud in everything. And so I always talk about the check because I still write a check to like pay a doctor's bill and stuff. But I use a debit card anytime else or cash. And so just one of those things I think that I always kind of encourage people to kind of always be checking your account because you never know what it's going to be. And so then I want to talk about the 5 things in small businesses that are some fraud scenarios is payroll fraud. And so in a study I found was that 27% of all businesses have payroll fraud. And for small businesses less than 100, that is doubled. And so we think, oh my gosh, that's not going to happen to me if I have a business or something. Well, you don't know. And so you have to put in precautions, multiple people looking at least 2 people, always wanting 2 people to look at things. Recently heard of a situation where a local business had a bookkeeper for several years and had trusted them. And once they figured and didn't want to change bank accounts or whatever, well, there was fraud going on. So there is always an opportunity. So the other thing is cash theft. That's pretty self-explanatory. But skimming off of the cash till or just not reimbursing, sending in false receipts, things like that are other ones. Some other ones, online banking, and I'll talk about online banking, but online banking for businesses is a whole lot of risk, but there's so many ways to prevent that. We offer businesses the ability to what time of day they can log in, how often they change passwords. We can also offer to where we can pinpoint that it can only be logged in at a certain IP address. So most businesses have what is called that Internet Protocol address. And so they can only log in from that work. And then we talk to them about the importance of antivirus, spyware, intrusion detection, all those things that are important because it may not be somebody that's actually doing your bookkeeping or whatever, but it could be that they're clicking on something that allows somebody else to get in onto their computer, which in turn could get into the banking stuff. So it's always a matter of review. Next one is false invoicing, which you could do very easily where they could create a fake vendor and then the company is paying this vendor for services they didn't render and end up being an employee that's getting the money if they have any control over that. So always wanting to check your vendors. And then invoice emails. and I've seen this is where people will send out invoices all the time, or somebody will even send you an email to click on a link, or they'll send you something that looks legit or it's from another company, but yet they've changed the address. And so really making sure that somebody is reviewing those invoices. So there's just a lot of risk, especially in businesses. Small businesses have reported fraud, an average of $150,000 in fraud when it happens. And a report I read earlier was that typically a fraud case can take up to, the median time is typically 8 months to find it. So, and it's all about controls. And so I hate controls, I'll be honest, but it's one of those important things about a business that they need to do. So then my other topic is debit card fraud, because we did some recent studies on that impacted us that I kind of thought was really good that we could share today. And so I thought I would share this. So this shows you how debit card fraud has kind of really went up. And then we put into place a system that we actually send out text messages for customers to verify that they did the transaction. So a good example is talking to a customer yesterday, and he was like, "Oh, wow, it's amazing. I mean, instantaneously, I saw a transaction come through, and I knew it wasn't me, so I said no, and it hot carded my card, and we had him a card by the end of the day. He could get a new card." It's not a matter if it's going to happen, it's a matter of when. And so what we're doing to really drive down that debit card fraud is stopping it on the first transaction. Because the thing you don't want happen is when we were peaking it out, what was happening was people were having multiple transactions, whether it be debit card fraud or checks or whatever, multiple things were going through their account that would accumulate. And so we are really proud on what we're doing with our customers because we're notifying them very quickly. Other things that you can do, I've got some more tips we'll talk about, is using text alerts for debit cards or credit cards or your account, balance alerts. Those are all great things that kind of keep you abreast of what's going on versus just getting a statement and seeing it once a month, because it's amazing what can happen in 30 days. So this is another graph that I thought was really interesting. So you can see we use this internally, and I thought this was a really good illustration of the debit card fraud in Indiana compared to what we're seeing. We've been able to figure out a way to kind of watch that debit card, but it is going crazy. And then this next graph is also in the US. It is happening. And then some of the interesting part about it, if you think about it, these people that are getting these debit cards, so if you haven't heard, I mean, you got to watch where you're at a restaurant. If that waiter takes your card, they could be swiping it and gathering that information. Now, the good thing about a debit card, it can be turned off instantly. The hard part about an account, then you got to switch all that. That debit card is tied to your account. And so that number on your debit card, that can be turned off instantly. But we talked about the waiters, gas pumps. They can have skimming devices on the gas pumps. You always want to make sure that you don't see anything that looks weird at a gas pump, or ATM machines. They've been known to put skimming devices on ATM machines. So it's truly not a matter of where, it's a matter of when it's going to happen. And so I think, as Gary talked earlier, you get these fraud calls, and I too enjoy them because I just turn on speakerphone and let them talk, and I just play along. And then they tell me that, oh, you've got this credit card or whatever, or you need to log on to the internet. And yesterday I got one, and this, oh, well, somebody's opened an Amazon account for you, and you need to get to your computer and type in this email address. It was Amazon.com. It wasn't Amazon.com. And so he finally did hang up on me because he got frustrated with me. But there are so many scams out there, whether it's your bank accounts or something else, that you just need to pay attention. So I had an instance, my father, my son was in college, and it's been a few years ago. He got a phone call, and it said that he was in jail and that they needed money to get him out. And so he did realize what was going on after a while. He called me, but what they were able to do is they got enough information out of him to know that he was what town he was in, what college he was in, just by asking certain questions. And it wasn't that they knew it. It was the questions that they asked that made him say the city name, say the college, and different things. And so they were wanting him to, and here's the biggest thing that we see is if somebody's asking you to go buy gift cards, there's probably a problem. That's one of the biggest things that we see right now are gift cards. They want people to buy gift cards and send it to them. Well, that's because then they can't be traced as easy. So some general tips on how to prevent fraud is keeping your information up to date. So if you use online banking and stuff, just make sure your contact information is up to date. Because the way we send out information is either by email or we send out text messages and stuff like that. And so it's important that it's on there. So I had a recent customer that was a newer customer, and when we got it set up, we put his wife's name in as a home phone number for him, but not his cell phone. So she was getting text messages about his debit card usage and it was driving her crazy, but he wasn't. And so just making sure when you have any accounts that you do have it, and even if you're not doing it online, making sure the bank or whatever company has your current information. Because one of the things, and I'm guilty of it here, so we were upgrading a payroll system recently, and we were going through that stuff, and it had my old phone number on there. Well, they couldn't have gotten a hold of me. That phone has been disconnected for probably 5-10 years. And so it's just one of those things of always keeping your information updated. Also, creating a strong password. So when you create a password for something, is make sure it has like a special character or a number, capital letters, and typically you want it to be somewhere in that 8 to 12 digit thing. A lot of banks are even going to, when we have a multi-factor authentication where some places are sending you a text message or something that sends you a code that you can enter in there as well. It's just one more layer. And so everything about anything you do online or like that, it's all about having layers of security. So even at home on your computer, your layers of security are your user ID, your password, your antivirus. If you have a VPN that really protects things, and just knowing what you're clicking on. It's always amazing how people can, even on cell phones and stuff, they can mask a phone number. So now I don't know how to do it, but I could probably figure it out by Googling it. I could probably get Gary's phone number and mask it on my phone and start calling people, and everybody thinks it's Gary calling. That is a common thing today. So definitely passwords. Alerts on cards, whether you be a credit card or debit card or something, use the text alerts. You guys are all savvy because you're on this Zoom call, so you've figured that out. And the text messages are just another way of communicating. So an example of that, and so I personally get text messages on every debit card transaction, almost any transaction. And so I got one for $1.07 the other day. My first instinct, I didn't do it. So I had to ask my wife, hey, what did you spend $1.07 on? Well, today she got me back because she was like, why did you go to the ATM? But it's just a matter of knowing what is going on is the biggest thing. So that's what I keep kind of going back to, is knowing what you are. There's also, if your bank doesn't offer text alerts or something like that, Visa actually offers a great program that you can register any Visa card, and it's called Visa Alerts. And you can register all your Visa cards and you can tell it what kind of alerts you want to get. Protect your devices, kind of what I was using virus stuff. I think that's always important. And in today's society, and if you guys have cell phones, you really almost have your biometrics stuff going on with the cell phones today. You got the face recognition, the fingerprints, you can do all kinds of different things, but those are just another layer of protection. And then the other thing is just pay attention to what's in the news, because there's always information on the news about scams going on. Whether it's being if you have a storm come through and you've got people knocking on the door to fix your roof that isn't bad, or people calling you because just out of the blue, is just kind of know what kind of things are out there. So that is kind of what I just kind of wanted to kind of talk about today. So I just felt like it was one of those things that are important these days, is because it's an amazing amount of fraud and deception that's going on. And so that's kind of what I want to talk about. So I was going to try to find, for some reason, I was going to stop sharing my screen, but apparently I'm not in the right, let's see here. Let's see here, in my show. There we go. I can just end it. There we go.
Okay.
So I am happy to answer questions, or if there's something else you want to ask me, I would be love to answer questions.
Thanks, Brad. Very, very good.
And one of the other things I didn't talk about, but I know that Karen is probably going to be offering it up, as you guys need a place to meet. We have a lovely facility in our new area. It's our Success Center. And so we can house very safely. Right now, we still have limits on it. We can house about 75 people. We currently have a limit of 30, but it's a great facility that lunch can be served, as well as a great meeting room that has kind of tables, a classroom setting type setup, but it's all open with overhead projection. So we'd love to host Kiwanis.
And it has a lot of parking.
Yes.
Yes. That'd be fantastic. Thank you. We'll be talking to that, Karen.
Okay.
That's good. Hey, Brad, a couple of things, and I appreciate your good topic. You know, like I said, I do have fun with the telemarketers, but you know, it does become a hassle. But what happened in 2016 that you saw that big jump?
You know, one of the things that we saw was people weren't seeing the fraud. And so what was happening is they were getting 10, 20 transactions at a time that were fraudulent. And so we don't really know, and we didn't have a system in place. And so what was happening is, it wouldn't be uncommon. I mean, we had one person that it was almost $10,000 in loss because the credit cards, or the MasterCard and Visa, actually every customer is zero liability. So you just have to claim it. The key is you have to claim it within 60 days. Am I right, Karen? So it's kind of like anything on your statements. If you read the back of your statement, you've got 60 days from that statement to claim it. And so whether it's a fraudulent check or a debit card. And so what was happening was that it was just racking up transactions. And so until they noticed it. And so we put in a new system that really questioned. And what we do is we are expecting to get a response back. If we send a text message, or we can send them a text message, an email, or we call a customer. And if we see something that's out of the norm, so let's say that you go to that McDonald's in Illinois, and you don't normally go there on a regular basis, we would flag that, and we would either send you a text message asking, did you do this transaction, yes or no? Or we would give you a call asking if you did that. And we would kind of warm your card until we get a response. And then once you say yes, then it will keep going. If you say no, boom, that card is useless after that.
Okay.
And if I can speak to that a little bit, I think back in 2016, people had online banking and people were using online banking, but since we didn't have those alerts, a lot of this stuff was happening overnight. And so, you know, you wake up in the morning, and after you get ready before you head into work, you would check your online banking, or once you got to work. And once we all got here, we were notified of, hey, I had 12 transactions overnight that wiped out my account. So it was happening overnight to people. So you weren't getting notified overnight. So it was really a big deal back then.
Oh.
And so here's another thing that we see quite often, kind of anymore, is the 99-cent transactions.
Yeah.
They'll run a 99-cent transaction to kind of test to see if the account's real. And if they get that, then they'll start coming back. But if you think about that, it doesn't take a lot of 99-cent transactions when they are doing millions of those at once. It doesn't take much for them to create those transactions. Now, if those people would take the time that they do for good, what they do for bad, it would be a much better place.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to travel quite a bit on business, and you know, it's really, really hard, this credit card fraud. You know, I'd get a call, and you know, and I'd be in Topeka, Kansas or something, and they'd say, you know, well, did you spend this at this Best Buy store in Cleveland? No.
Yep.
You know, so I mean, those alerts are very, very important. If you can, you know, wherever you bank, it's very, very important to do that. Another thing that I found, and like Brad said, was the credit card that you give to the waiter or waitress. We were in a store, we were in a restaurant in a company meeting in Chicago or in the suburbs, and the president of the company gave his credit card to the waitress, because we were all having a few beverages, and then we were going to have dinner. And so she brought it back at dinner or after dinner, and he took care of it all and everything. And about a month later, he gets his statement in the mail, which came to his house, why he bought all this lingerie at this store next door. You know, and that's what happened, is this lady, waitress, had gone next door. She had a bunch of stuff on layaway, and she just waited for an opportunity, and she took that card right next door and spent it all. So it is, don't, you know, if they want the card, let them run it right then, but don't do anything. Tell them you want the card back. You know, you want to, don't let them hold on to it for your entire meal or anything like that. You know, this store made it good, but it was, or the restaurant made it good, but it was hard to go through. The other one is the credit card laying face up on your table at the dinner. You know, when you put your credit card down, you're on top of the bill or something. Very, very easy for somebody to come by and they're talking on their phone and all of a sudden snap a picture of that credit card number. Okay. Not a good practice. If you're going to do that, that's why they give you those covers at most of the restaurants, or good restaurants give you those covers to put your credit card in. Put it in there. Don't leave it face up on the table with the numbers showing, because that has been a way I got caught too. Brad, what do you think about password keepers? You know, the type of thing that you can put in your computer or on your phone that have all your passwords in there. And the one I use seem to be secure, but you know, I just wonder about that if you have that whole thing all in one boat.
You know, I know some, especially in the IT area, that use those, and I think they are good, but it's just like anything else. It's making sure that you've got security to get into that. That it's not just open, because if somebody can log into your computer and use it, then they've got one step. They're one step closer to where maybe if you have to unlock it. Once you're in there, it's another step. And so that's one of the things that we practice, is we try not to use the same password for all the different things that we have, but then also we practice in the bank itself. We practice changing passwords every 30 days, which is a pain.
Yeah.
But what we're doing is we're protecting everyone else's data. And so we even tried that with online banking. Man, that didn't go over well. And so we do have 180 day, but even if a program or a online account doesn't require you to change your password every so often, I still think it's a good idea, because you never know. And the other thing is even email. So I have a Yahoo account. I think I've got a Gmail account, and they don't force you to change passwords. But really, you think about it, it would probably be a good thing, especially if you use it like on your computer and you use it on your phone, or even if, let's say, you go into a public place or the library and use their computer, and you thought, oh, I'm just going to log into all that data is still on a computer somewhere. And so every so often changing it is a good idea.
Thanks.
But yeah, I know a lot of people that use the password keys, or I guess that have multiple passwords, kind of keep things on there for you.
Right. Who else has questions? Great information, Brad. We appreciate it.
Yep.
Brad, this is Larry at the
Larry.
museum. Hey, how are you?
Good.
Is there are either debit cards or credit cards significantly safer, one versus the other? And also, I've seen on TV where people say they can walk past somebody with a phone and, swipe somebody's pocket and pick up credit card information. Is that true?
That is true, because anymore they have what's called some, not all of them have, I'm going to say it wrong, but an
RFID
card, ID, to where if you see those, it's kind of like where they can swipe without even sliding it. They can just kind of hover it over it. And so that is a risk. They really kind of thought there'd be a bigger risk than it is, but really there's not a lot of difference between the debit and credit card as far as fraud.
Okay.
I have a personal opinion. This is my personal opinion. I never use my debit card if I buy anything online. And the reason why I do that is because that's my cash.
Right.
On the credit card, I've got 30 days to fix it. But if it's my cash, it kind of goes to the point Gary was saying when he had fraud. I mean, that is a hassle to anybody that has fraud. Even with the systems we have, I mean, notification, that means you got to get a new card, and then you're trying to really check everything out. So that's why I use a credit card if I'm buying anything online versus my debit card. I use my debit card really just to be in person. Now, one of the things that are actually, which is really surprising to me, but one of the things I have learned is Apple Pay. Apple Pay is actually one of the most secure ways of payment. And so if you have your phone, you can just kind of swipe your phone over if they accept. Unfortunately, there's not very many places around Crawfordsville that has the ability to take Apple Pay at this time. But that is one of the most secure, because it's also, they are encrypting your card number and your Apple Pay number, because really what you do is you log into Apple Pay and put like your debit card or credit card and tie it to it. And so what's on your phone is really not your debit card number. It's a number that Apple is doing. And so they encrypt it all the way through. And that's the big thing, because that's where you hear of these we haven't heard too many of the big, and I don't know if they've just kind of stopped reporting them, but like Home Depot had a big breach a couple of years ago. I think Dairy Queen's had breaches, different big companies, because all their card information is flowing into like their main headquarters, but most of that's not necessarily encrypted when it gets there, or it may travel encrypted, but then it's an open file. So they've got card numbers and that CSV code number. And so somebody can, if they take that file, a lot of times they don't even use them right away. They will hold on to that information and they will sell those cards later. And then they'll just try them because all they got to do is it doesn't take much to create a new card. Great question, Larry. I went way over around it, but hopefully that helped.
Well, it is very important, the security on all of these, and I think the double protection where they will text you back and say, okay, because they know your phone number, and they can text you on your phone. So if somebody else is trying to get into it and they text your phone, say, wait a minute, there's something wrong here,
Exactly.
So it is important to have any of that type of thing that you can.
Now, one of the things I've seen recently, and I'll tell everybody about this, and I don't know how people they get your phone number and stuff, but I actually just got it on Tuesday. I got a text message from a number I didn't have. It says, you have one new message from Google, Brad. They have my name, but then it has a link. I'm not going to click on that link because one, it's either going to go somewhere I don't want it to, or two, it probably could give them control over my phone, which has a lot of information on it. So I've been seeing quite a few more of those things where I'm getting phone numbers and it says, here you go, an amazing new trick, reduces 48 pounds in just 4 weeks with a link. So if you don't know where a text or an email is from, and then even if you do, one of the things, and I wish I would have done this in the presentation, was pay attention to an email, look at the email address.
Right.
So if, let's say that Karen Heisel sends you an email from the bank, make sure that it is actually Karen Heisel at myhhsb.com instead of Karen hoping at myhb.com. Because that's what we're seeing as well, is people are creating email addresses trying to pose as other people. And so we do a lot of training on even like so it doesn't take much to, if I wanted to send an email from, I'll use Service Bureau. I can go out there and I can grab the logo for Youth Service Bureau and put it in my email to make it look like it's coming from Youth Service Bureau, even though my email address has nothing to do with Youth Service Bureau.
Right.
We give a lot of information to everybody.
Yeah, the other thing on that,
on the internet,
you may see an email from Karen Heisel at myhhsb.com.ug, and that means it's not coming from myhhsb.com, it's coming from Uganda. So you got to be really, really careful with that. If you see that the last two letters on there are, IR for Ireland or something like that, it's not coming from the real person unless you have that real person out there in Uganda or Ireland or whatever, because it's coming from a foreign country.
And that's what we talk to all of our team members about all the time is, if you're supposed to send something back to somebody and you're just really not sure and you're wondering why they're even asking, or they sent you a link, pick up the phone and call the person. Especially if you know them. If you were not expecting that email or that request, pick the phone up and call
them. Right. Well, hey, thanks a lot, everybody. And Brad, thank you. And Karen for arranging to get Brad here. I know he's a busy man. Thanks a lot. And we will be talking about the meeting locations. That sounds fantastic. Our next meeting will be April 22nd, 1 week from today. Our speaker will be Tom Klein, the Montgomery County Administrator. So we're looking forward to that one too.
Gary.
Yes.
Before we close, I am a great grandma.
All
8
right.
pounds, 9 ounces, 21.5 inches long. Mom and
Congratulations.
baby are doing great.
Congratulations. All right.
Thank you.
Congratulations. We want pictures.
I have one, but I don't know how to share it.
Okay. Okay. Well, we'll get them later. Thanks. That's fantastic. You know, speaking of that positive thought of the day, one small positive thought in the morning can change the entire outcome of your day. Yours has been changed, Sharon.
It certainly has.
Right. Well, hey, thanks everybody, and we really appreciate it. And we'll see you next week. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.